After finishing the battle in Westview Town, the Avengers members took the Quinjet fighter and chose to return to the Avengers Alliance base in New York. As Clint Barton's wife Laura is about to enter her due date, Barton may not be able to attend the party after celebrating this victory. So everyone unanimously decided to postpone this party until after Laura left Little H Hawkeye. Let's throw a party together and think of it as a birth celebration for Little Hawkeye. Back at the Avengers Alliance base, everyone returned to the room to start rest. As for Steve and Tony, they went to Steve's residence together, ready to have a good talk. Su Che knew what the two wanted to talk about secretly, but not ready to get involved. Firstly, I have no position. Firstly, after I get rid of this envoy by myself. There are both rewards and new quotas for black gold diary holders. So Su Che is still looking forward to it. I went back to my room and took a shower to wash away the dust. Sitting on the sofa, he picked up a bottle of soda and took a sip, then turned on the system and began to look at it. Host: Su Che. Age: 20 years old. Identity: black gold diary holder, parallel world Avengers Alliance superhero, Avengers Alliance superhero in this universe. Ability: the ultimate perfect water control ability, 10 times the peak physical fitness of ordinary people, spiritual magic, Superman's perfect advanced defense version. The only mission: the arrival of the planet Devourer. 30% progress. Current black gold diary holders: Natasha Romanoff, Wanda Django Maximoff, Nick Fury, Frigga Odinson. Currently, the number of black gold diary holders can be added, 1. You can currently receive special rewards, 1. The host can choose whether to receive the reward immediately, and at the same time, the number of holders of the black gold diary will be added. Look at the system page. Su Che has no hesitation, so he directly chooses to receive the special reward first. The so-called special reward refers to the new ability that can be received after eliminating the enemies created by the system. Just like Olivia Temple, after he was eliminated, what he got was the perfect advanced defense version of Superman's body. So Su Che is looking forward to what kind of reward the system will give after eliminating the envoy magician this time. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the new ability, the ultimate perfect version of Psychokinesis. Ability introduction. The ultimate perfect version of Psychokinesis, in addition to the common space shifting, destroying objects, controlling objects, and psychokinesis barriers, the perfect version of Psychokinesis can cooperate with mind magic to achieve telepathy, mind control, and can also change the controlling magnetic field, psychokinesis play to the extreme. It can even affect complex movements such as atomic decay of objects. Asterisk note: the power of psychokinesis is equal to the user's mental power. The stronger the mental power of the user, the stronger the effect of psychokinesis. Once the mental power is exerted to the extreme and cannot be controlled, it will backfire on the user and cause brain damage. Note: under the extreme psychokinesis, reality can even be changed, and it is extremely dangerous. Please be careful to use the ultimate psychokinesis. Look at the new ability you have acquired, and the introduction of ability. Che felt instantly hit by surprise. The ultimate version of psychokinesis. What kind of ability is that? To give the simplest example, Magneto, the hidden hall is amazing. In the mutant movie, Magneto has been weakened a lot, from being able to controlling magnetic field to being able to only control metal. But even so, Magneto's performance in the movie is already very good. How powerful would Magneto be without weakening? But now, the ultimate and perfect version of psychokinesis that he has obtained is countless times stronger than Magneto's ability. Magneto can control the magnetic field, and he can also control the magnetic field through psychokinesis, and can even affect reality by affecting the atomic decay motion of objects. And it can also cooperate with one's own mind magic to complete mind control, teleportation and induction. Most importantly, the stronger the mental power of a person with psychokinesis, the stronger the effect of psychokinesis will be. This is simply an ability tailor-made for yourself. After all, with the perfect advanced defense version of Superman's body, there is no need to worry about the brain damage that the system needs to pay attention to. And the mental power is originally 10 times the peak physical fitness of ordinary people. On this basis, I can completely double the use of psychokinesis without worrying about being backlashed. Thinking of this, Su Che looked at the soda water on the coffee table. Psychokinesis moved slightly, and the next second the soda water flew directly in front of him. After catching the soda, Su Che took a sip. Looked at the system again. Psychokinesis taken to the extreme can change reality and is extremely dangerous. Seeing the second note, Su Che frowned slightly. Then he asked the system in his heart, "System, if I maximize my psychokinesis, I shouldn't have to worry about getting backlashed by psychokinesis and damaging my body, right? Besides, what does this extremely dangerous mean? Dangerous, is it me originally, or something else?" Facing the question in Su Che's heart, the system gave the answer directly. Because the host has the perfect advanced defense version of Superman's body, there is no need to worry about the damage caused by the backlash of psychokinesis. The danger refers not to the host, but to the reality changed by the host's psychokinesis. Under the ultimate psychokinesis, even space barriers can be opened to connect to other multi-universes. Use Qingsu with care. The multi-universe is full of dangers everywhere, and it is very likely to cause a certain impact on this universe, or even destroy it under the impact of the universe. Psychokinesis brought to the extreme can open space barriers and connect to other multi-universes? Looking at the system's explanation of extremely dangerous, Su Che couldn't believe it. How can psychokinesis be so powerful? But this is the explanation given by the system. Although I don't know what the reason is, it should not be false. It's like Ned, that little fat man who has never been exposed to magic, can use the sling ring to find the first and second generation Spider-Man. And here is the Marvel Universe movie universe. Many things do not need to use science, nor can it be explained by science. In other words, now I really have the channel to open the multi-universe? But the parallel universe collided with the main universe. I really understand this. After all, it happened once in the comics. The ending was very tragic. Once this happens, in order to keep the universe in which you live, you must destroy the other's universe. May I ask if the host has opened the new quota for the Black Gold Diary? Open. Listening to the system's inquiry, Su Che glanced at Queen Frigg's trust value, which had reached 90%. Then choose to open without any hesitation. Following Su Che's order, the Black Gold Diary will quickly select new places in the next second. After a few seconds, after looking at the newly added quota that was immediately selected in the Black Gold Diary, Su Che clicked his tongue softly. Unexpectedly, this newly added quota of mine is actually Hela, the goddess of death in Asgard. Depend on. How does this increase her trust value? Tisk. Difficult to deal with Yoding, underworld. To be precise, this is not the real underworld, but should be called Niflheim or Helheim. Same as Asgard, Jotunheim. Same place as Vanaheim. The only difference is that Niflheim, as one of the 9 realms, is a place where only the undead can go. According to the saying that Asgard has been circulating for a long time, the souls of soldiers who died fighting for Asgard will enter the Soul Castle. And the fallen souls will enter this eternal night, full of thorns, and foggy kingdom of death. Hela doesn't see it that way. If it is said that fallen souls will enter this Helheim, how about the warriors under his command, and his mount, the giant wolf Fenrir? Those warriors who fought with him to the last moment, even facing the whole Valkyrie family and Odin, never retreated half a step. I haven't seen them for more than 3,900 years. Once, these loyal Asgard fighters were invincible under their leadership. They could have entered the Soul Castle, but because of that damned Odin is surrounded by cowardice and cowardice. He even gave up the 9 realms that could have been conquered by Asgard. Moreover, in order to secure his throne, this extremely cowardly coward even sent the Valkyrie clan to attack him at the last moment. Oh, stupid Valkyrie family. It cost them the lives of their clan to give Odin the chance to banish and seal himself to Helheim. The only pity is that his giant wolf Fenrir and his Asgard warriors all died in battle. Looking at the gray surroundings, it seems that the eternal night will never dawn. Hela let the wind sound like the howling of a soul, blowing the hair scattered on her shoulders. More than 1,900 years, about 2,000 years, I have already gotten used to everything here. Didn't it mean that by betraying Asgard, fallen souls will enter this realm of eternal night? Then why for more than 1,900 years, I have traveled every corner of Helheim? I have beheaded the king of the underworld and tore up the ambitious soul here. But in the end, I didn't find the souls of the Asgard warriors who used to be under my command. Oh, sure enough, it's all a lie of the cowardly man Odin. Get out. Facing the group of guys lying on the ground, Hela said in a cold tone, "Go away." However, The piercing tone of ice made the group of guys lying on the ground trembling as if they had received amnesty. He fled quickly without looking back, since the goddess of death from Asgard was sealed here nearly 2,000 years ago. Who in Helheim doesn't know the name of this ant? Fortunately, this ant is in a good mood today, otherwise it would be difficult to go back alive. Watching a group of people running away rolling and crawling, Hela's eyes were devoid of any emotion. From the beginning to the end, Hela didn't pay attention to these Helheim guys. In her heart, the best place is Asgard. The best fighters are those of Asgard. Unfortunately, I was sealed for 2,000 and 2,000 years. 2,000 years, if I have been living in Asgard for nearly 2,000 years. Then maybe my ability has far surpassed Odin's. But that's okay. Wei Wei stretched out her hand and felt the existence of the seal. Immediately, a disdainful smile appeared on the corner of Hela's mouth. Sure enough, Ding is getting old. Maybe it won't be long before I can break through this seal and return to Asgard. As long as you return to Asgard, your strength will slowly recover and become stronger. I really hope that Odin can persist for a while longer, so that I have a chance to kill him with my own hands. With a sneer, he was just about to take his hand back. But in the next second, a black gold diary seemed to appear out of nowhere and fell into Hela's hands. Looking at the black notebook that suddenly appeared and fell in his hand, Hela's eyes froze, and her cold eyes quickly swept around, and a black long sword appeared in the other hand at some point. Who? An extremely cold voice resounded all around, and the black long sword in his hand hummed and exploded. After a while, make sure you don't feel any enemy attack. Only then did Hela retract the long sword, and set her eyes on the black gold diary in front of her. There is no danger of any kind, and no divine calendar of any kind. There is no trace of magic that can affect him. It's like the black gold diary that suddenly appeared in my hand, just like an ordinary notebook. But Hela, who has experienced too many wars and seen too many betrayals and ghost tricks. Absolutely not the black gold diary that suddenly appeared in his hand and fell into his hand, it's that simple. With a thought, the whole person quickly leapt into the distance in the next second. He grabbed a guy casually and put the diary in his hand. Seeing this terrified guy trembling, Hela's voice was cold, with an unquestionable tone. Open it. What? What? Forgive me, goddess of death. I said. Let you open it. Seeing the guy kneeling on the ground begging for mercy, Hela showed no mercy and urged him to open the black gold diary immediately. But how can the guy kneeling on the ground see the black gold diary? You can't even feel the weight of the so-called black gold diary. He didn't even know what to open. This is not an excuse that the goddess of death from Asgard came up with to kill them. But this is simply impossible, because, according to Hela's style in Helheim, if you want to kill them, you don't need any excuses at all. You cannot see it. Looking at the expression of fear, it doesn't seem like a fake guy. Hela flew up and grabbed another person. After trying several times in succession, I found that these people really couldn't see the existence of the black gold diary. Even putting the black gold diary in their hands, they couldn't feel it. Get out. Picking up the black gold diary again, Hela said impatiently. Wait until these guys have fled in a hurry. Hela then looked at the black gold diary in her hand again. On the black cover, the words Diary of the Acer Protoss are engraved in gold stamping. As a member of the Acer Protoss, Hela learned not only her own script, but also the languages and characters of many races since she was a child, so naturally she would not admit mistakes. It's just that she really didn't feel even the slightest danger. Looking at the surroundings filled with mist like eternal night, Hela randomly found a boulder and flew up, then sat on the edge of the boulder and opened the diary. In this eternal night, Helheim is full of thorns and mist. Something to have a playtime with is also a good choice. Call. Heaving a sigh of relief, looking at Wanda, who was tilting her head and smiling brightly, Su Che reached out and hugged her. It's getting better and better. How do you say that? Practice makes perfect, dear. Gently rubbed his forehead against his boyfriend's head, and then went to the bathroom. 10 minutes later, Wanda, who came back after brushing her teeth and rinsing her mouth, smiled at Su Che. By the way, Pietro and I will be 17 in a few months. You will be able to eat in a year. But dear, I don't want to go to college. Resting his head on his boyfriend's arm, Wang Da took his boyfriend's hand and pressed it against his own to compare the file size. Hey hey. My boyfriend's hands are much bigger than mine. Don't want to go to college? Looking at holding my own hand, my fingers clasped tightly for a while, and the size of the file was smaller for a while. Su Che gently stroked Wanda's hair. Why do you suddenly have this idea? It's not all of a sudden, it's just that doesn't like going to college too much. As she said that, a trace of red magic energy appeared on Wanda's fingertips. I also want to control this magic ability as soon as possible, so that no matter what happens in the future, I can help you. Having said that, Wanda raised her head and wrapped her arms around Su Che's neck. The expression is cute but very serious and said, Honey, in fact, I have always wanted to have a very warm family. Although Pietro and I were adopted by Natasha Romanoff's sister, we have a family. But, I want a family that really belongs to me. Honey, you should be able to feel that I like you very, very, very much, so I want to build a happy and warm family with you in the future. You shouldn't refuse me, right? While speaking, Wanda narrowed her eyes and looked at Su Che. It seems that as long as Su Che refuses, she will act. Grabbing Wanda slipping down and wanting to hold Fate's hand, Su Che laughed. Definitely won't refuse. Whether it is to prevent the veins of fate from being pinched by Wanda's hand that is about to slide down. Or because I really like Wanda very much. Now that you have come to this world, why not find someone you like to spend the rest of your life with? Wanda is beautiful, there's no denying that. Although the figure is not as Scarlet Witch a few years later. But I'm afraid there is no one who doesn't like to bring up with his own hands. Moreover, I really like this girl very much. Otherwise, Wanda would not have thought that he was her future husband when compiling the diary. Well, just have to wait a year to eat it. But it's okay, I've been waiting for so long. It's not that old. Seeing that her boyfriend didn't refuse, Wanda smiled and rested her head on his shoulder again. Actually, I've already thought about it. Holding Su Che's finger, Wanda fiddled with it and said, My crimson magic should be very strong, according to what my dear you and sister Natasha Romanoff said. If I can fully grasp the crimson magic, maybe I will have the opportunity to truly become origin magic power in the future. Although I don't know what origin magic power is yet, it doesn't matter, the long life will let me know. When the time comes, I will give you at least 2 babies to form a very warm and happy family. The baby will also inherit my origin magic power and your mighty strength. Speaking of this, Wanda raised her head and kissed the corner of Su Che's mouth. Hey, my dear. By then, our baby's strength will definitely surpass ours. Should be. Looking at Wanda's hopeful eyes. Su Che thought for a while, then nodded. Your genes plus my genes, this means that our future children will definitely not be ordinary people. However, ability is one aspect, and Xin Xing is the most worthy of attention. Otherwise, if you have unparalleled strength but no matching heart, you will either become a ticking time bomb or go astray. No way. Hearing what her boyfriend said, Wanda firmly stated that it was impossible. Our baby's father is the soul of Avengers, the most powerful superhero on Earth. Plus they have lived with superheroes since childhood, how could they become supervillains? My dear, sometimes the influence of environmental factors far exceeds the influence of the original personality. This is the relationship between innate ability and acquired environment. Anyway, that's what our philosophy teacher said. Having said that, the big cell phone rang suddenly. Picking up the phone and looking at it, Wanda pursed her lips. Already almost 17 years old, Pietro can't be more mature. He always depends on my sister, when will he grow up? With that said, Wanda sat up from the bed. Actually, Pietro is the older brother. Well, you are the older sister. Seeing Wanda, who turned her head wronged and stared at her because she said that Pietro was the elder brother. Su Che spread out her hands to say that you are Sister Pietro. Hey, I love you the most. Leaning close to Su Che and kissing him, Wanda stood up and said, Honey, I'm going to see what Pietro wants me for. I'll be back in a while. After speaking, Wanda put on her shoes and walked out directly. Watching Wanda leave, Su Kai took a look at the system. Well, very bad. The trust value of Hela, the goddess of death in Asgard, has begun to fluctuate. This shows that she has already started to look through the black gold diary. Although the trust value is only the simplest 10%, it is equivalent to holding this black gold diary as if reading a story. But at least, it's a good start too. Maybe I can write a diary tonight and include Hela in it. Well, the battle for New York is over. The Westview stuff is over, plus Tony's love-hate relationship with Steve and things happening earlier between Tony and Ivan Vanki. There is indeed a lot to write about. Damn it. Why is Nick Fury so hard to gain trust? The cargo is stuck at 73% motionless. It's like a turtle shell. I really want to come to Boda for him, but you should think about how to write a new diary. Maybe Nick Fury, Natasha Romanoff or that Queen Frigg should have been waiting for a long time. Thinking of this, Su Che began to think about the next diary entry. At the same time, in a prison in New York. Hey Parody, have you figured out what you're going to say? Looking at Ivan Vanki who was imprisoned here, Tony Stark spread his hands and said, in Westview Town, you were killed, but you were buried under the ruins. Although several bones were broken. But I guess you deserve the pain, so, can we talk now? I looked into your past. Wow, I have to say it's very exciting. Looking at Ivan Vanki in front of him, Tony Stark spread his hands and said, smuggling, robbery, stealing, private sales are prohibited. Give me a cigarette. Before Tony Stark finished asking, Ivan Vanki leaned against the wall clutching his ribs. What? I said, give me a cigarette. He repeated his request, watching Tony Stark take a pack of cigarettes from the prison guard and hand it to him. Ivan Vanki lit a cigarette and slowly exhaled a layer of light blue mist. You know, I haven't smoked for a long time. Although cigarettes were hard currency in that extremely cold prison, it did not destroy my will. So even if that shitty emissary magician rescued me from somewhere, I never touched a cigarette again. What do you want to express? Listening to Ivan Vanki saying this on his own, Tony Stark said, I think what you answered and what I want to know are not the same thing. Hee hee. Facing Tony's eyes, Ivan Vanki leaned against the wall and laughed twice. Turning his head and looking at Tony Stark indifferently. I know what you want to ask. Yes, this is just the beginning. Iron Man Tony Stark, Silver Moon Knight Su Che. Captain America Steve Rogers, haha, the so-called superhero who saved the world. But, do you think you can always win? Hey, that shit magic envoy lost this time, but don't worry about the so-called god behind him losing. He only needs to win once, just once, then the Earth will be completely destroyed with a bang. Listening to Ivan Vanki's gossip, he generally didn't care about it. Tony Stark's eyes became serious. But before he could continue asking, Ivan Vanki raised the pack of cigarettes in his hand. Thank you for the cigarettes. I know you want to ask, did that shitty emissary say anything to me? Tony Stark. I can tell you that whether it is him, or Olivia Temple who came before him, they are just a small group of vanguards under the command of that god. Perhaps in the not-too-distant future, there will be more and more powerful enemies coming across the galaxy dimension. I hope that you can have more luck every time. After finishing speaking, Ivan Vanki threw the burnt cigarette on the ground, and then crushed it with his toes. I really want to see the look of despair when you are invincible. We still have Su Che. Looking at Ivan Vanki, Tony Stark said with a solemn expression. Ah. Ivan Vanki looked at Tony Stark with sarcasm and pity, and Ivan Vanki didn't care about it. Tony said that the whole card of the Earth is Su Che. Damn it. I hate the look in your eyes, don't forget that you are also from Earth. Hey, I'm also from Earth. But what has Earth brought me? Lifting the chain on his wrist, Ivan Vanki said with a mocking tone, poverty, hatred, resignation, depravity. Destruction is also destruction, do you think? Will Li Qian care? Listen to Ivan Vanko. Tony Stark stood up from the chair. Oh, very good self-analysis, but it would be better if the eyes were more sincere. Dude, I hope you can still maintain this look in prison for the rest of your life. After speaking, Tony Stark turned and left without hesitation. Looking at the back of Tony Stark leaving, Ivan Vanki said loudly, Great Tony Stark. I hope that the next time I see you, you won't cry like a child. At that time, maybe I'll give you a feeding bottle as a reward. Without turning around, he just raised his hand over his shoulder and gave Ivanko behind him a middle finger as an answer. God is crying for milk. Leave the prison and return to the car. Start the car and rush to the Avengers Alliance base, but Tony Stark's expression is very dignified. Sir, you seem to be in a very bad mood. Inside the car, the voice of Jarvis slowly sounded. Do you need me to play a piece of music that can relieve stress and anxiety? Thank you, but I don't need it. With that said, Tony Stark let go of the steering wheel. Jarvis South, help me drive. Yes, sir. But I suggest not to keep this emotion for a long time. It has a great effect on your body and mind. If the time is too long, it is likely to develop into an anxiety disorder. After speaking, Jarvis began to help Tony drive the car automatically. Listening to Jarvis' advice, Tony Stark nodded to show he understood. But he didn't care, but took out his mobile phone and dialed out. After about a few seconds, the phone was connected, and Dr. Banner's voice came from the other end of the phone. Hey, Tony. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Bruce. What's going on with you? Still the same. Inside the room, Dr. Banner sat on the sofa and put down the soda in his hand. Although the Hulk front participated in the Battle of New York and saved the Avengers. But which university I am in is still unwilling to agree to my request. Although, they allowed me to keep their professor status, but they didn't allow me to step into their classroom again. Speaking of this, Dr. Banner leaned on the sofa and said, Actually, I can understand. After all, I used their laboratory to study gamma rays, which resulted in irreparable consequences. It's normal for them to have this worry and concern. But the good news is that the Ivy League has invited me to be a visiting professor at their academy. Wow, that's really good news. Listening to Dr. Banner's words, Tony Stark hesitated and then said, Bruce, I need your help. Help? What are you doing? Are you going to do some research? For example, upgrade your armor? No, it is to put a layer of armor on this world. Facing Dr. Banner's curiosity, Tony Stark said firmly, Dude, you are the only one in the entire Avengers alliance who can help me with this. I'm fed up with Earth being attacked by alien civilizations over and over again. We won this time, we won last time, but what about next time? I always feel that I have the responsibility to do this to the end, otherwise everything will hang over me like a nightmare, and I don't want to have that kind of anxiety. Definitely, I don't want to end up seeing the Earth being destroyed in front of us after we fail. So dude, I need your help. Looking ahead, Tony Stark's expression is rare, so serious. Hee, is this my destiny? In the Time Administration. Watching his fate freeze on the last huge amounts of spaceship, watching Thor lying on his body in pain. Loki spread his hands, pretending not to care. It's just that this can't be hidden from Mobius' eyes. At least, anyone with a discerning eye can see that Loki, whose eyes are full of tears at the moment, is not as calm as he appears in his heart. It can only be said that this is your original destiny trajectory. Standing up from the seat, Mobius looked at Loki and said very seriously, in the original timeline story, all the things you saw will happen to you. In the end, the guy named Thanos will pinch his neck and die. Definitely, your fate has changed drastically now. For example, Thor was exiled in advance, such as the Battle of New York that was supposed to happen next year, but it happened earlier. In fact, since the Silver Moon Knight named Suche came to this universe, everything, including the fate of all of you, has changed. Speaking of which, looking at Loki with a calm expression, but actually extremely agitated in his heart. Mobius nodded. Okay, it seems that I need to give you some time to accept it, so I will leave it to you first. After you've completely calmed down, let's talk about Loki and Mobius. Patting Loki on the shoulder, Mobius smiled and got up and left the room. Well, it was still very sweet to close the door for Loki. Wait until Mobius leaves the room. Loki stretched out a trembling hand, hesitation for a moment. Then he quickly turned back the projector of the Time Management Bureau, and then watched it again. My sons, remember, where is home? Loki, I always thought that we would walk side by side forever, but fate destined us to take different paths after all. Give up your ambition, Loki. Look at these disasters you have brought. We are brothers, Loki. If you're here, Loki, then I'll give you a hug. I am here. Huh. Seeing the scenes of this screening belonged to my own future destiny. Loki opened his mouth and laughed, but the tears in his eyes couldn't be wiped away. This idiot. With tears in his smile, he replayed the picture of his father sitting on the cliff by the sea and dissipating into golden light. In the screen, the father said, my sons. No matter how many times he listens to it, Loki feels like he can't get enough of it. It turned out that it wasn't that my father didn't love me. It's not that my father never paid attention to himself. Just. Call. Taking a long breath, he raised his hand to wipe away the tears. Loki played the scene from the beginning again, the scene about his original fate. Although, since Su Che came to this universe, his own destiny has undergone earth-shaking changes. However, there are some things in the future that you should remember. Like, those damn dark elves. They killed their own mother. It's like in the playing screen, after the mother was killed by the dark elves. Thor said he didn't know if he could trust himself. It's the same as the phrase, "You should believe my anger," in my own answer. Even if you know that it is the trajectory of your original destiny, not what will happen in the future in reality. But Loki still clenched his fist tightly. He didn't dare to imagine that the dark elves were killed because of his guidance. Damn it. How can I do this by myself? How could I indirectly kill Mu Ying because of my jealousy towards Thor and anger towards my father? Myself. Really, damn it. Fortunately, this is just what happened to my original fate, not what will happen to me in the future. So I still have time, and I can prevent all this from happening. But having said that, I should also thank Su Che? If it wasn't for him, there's a good chance these things would have happened. Thinking of this, Lu Ji shook his head mockingly. Jane Foster, tie particles, dark elves. He muttered these words to himself. But soon, Lu Ji felt a little headache. Stop Thor and Jane Foster from getting together. Or is it to prevent Thor from going to Asgard to receive treatment from Jane Foster, who is possessed by tie particles, that is, the particle form of the reality gem that Morbius said? This may be a way out. Now that you know how to take out the tie particles from the body of Jane Foster in the future. Then maybe things will work out. As long as Jane Foster is not brought into Asgard for treatment, then all tragedies should be avoided. As for whether the leader of the Dark Elves will lead people to attack the Earth? I didn't expect that one day I would agree with that fellow Tony Stark. You have the leader of the Dark Elves, but the Earth has the Silver Moon Knight. Shaking his head, Loki speeded up his viewing, and finally stopped at the scene where his father turned into golden light and dissipated. The matter of the Dark Elves is easy to settle, but how about Hela? Hey, I didn't expect that I would have such a powerful sister. Leaning on the chair and pinching the center of his eyebrows, he thought of the screen being played. The Hela who broke the seal from Helheim was able to crush Thor's Mjolnir with one hand. Loki just had a headache. Crush Thor's Mjolnir with one hand. That's Thor's Mjolnir, and he knew it in the battle with Thor side by side with Hela. The longer Hela stays in Asgard, the more terrifying her strength will be. And when Hela, who had just broken the seal and returned from Helheim, hadn't fully recovered her strength. Mjolnir can be crushed with one hand. Tisk. This is a bit difficult to do. No way. Finally summon the flame giant to destroy Asgard. Thinking of that very sassy and powerful Hela, Loki felt helpless for a while. Sure enough, the future is getting more and more difficult. How is it? Have you recovered emotionally? Opening the door and looking at Loki, Mobius smiled and said, I think your mood should be stable now. While talking, Mobius walked in. It seems that you have come out of that emotion, so maybe we should talk about how to solve the current problem. Trust me, Loki, as long as we can solve the problem at hand, everything will work out. You can also continue to return to Earth or Asgard, and do what you want. So, can we talk now? A piece of relaxation, it feels like a heavy burden has been lifted off the body. Sitting at the desk, holding a cup of coffee and looking at Maria Hill in front of her, Nick Fury smiled with a rare expression. Fortunately, everything is resolved now, including the complete elimination of the remaining parts of Hydra. Otherwise, once the Insight Plan is implemented, I'm afraid the world will really fall into the hands of Hydra. You really think it's all over? Seeing Nick Fury's relaxed expression, Maria Hill frowned and said, You don't want to step down as director of S.H.I.E.L.D., do you? Laugh. Seeing Hill's serious misunderstanding, Nick Fury put down his coffee and said, I didn't expect you to be joking too. By the way, what's going on with Phil Coulson? Right. If Nick Fury really wants to give up the position of S.H.I.E.L.D. director, then it would not be less than a week since the Battle of New York ended, and brazenly launched a full-scale attack on Hydra. So much so that the power of S.H.I.E.L.D. was weakened so much. According to Nick Fury's character, S.H.I.E.L.D. is weakened, and the rookies from the top 10.5 Eagle's Nest can all walk into the main fork building grandly. Nick Fury wouldn't be Nick Fury if he could unload his position. But when Nick asked Phil Coulson, Maria Hill shook her head, not so good. While Phil Coulson has been brought back to life, the pain of the process far exceeded our expectations. He's been begging us to kill him, and I can't imagine what he's going through in the process. It makes people like Phil Coulson beg us to kill him again. Speaking of this, Maria Hill looked at Nick Fury. You know, Phil Coulson has a reputation as a good guy in our shield. But he is the best agent ever, otherwise he wouldn't be so valued by you. Maria Hill was right. In fact it is. Although the image of Phil Coulson as a good old man is deeply rooted in the hearts of the people, everyone in S.H.I.E.L.D., including the once hidden Hydra, thinks so. However, anyone who really believes in him is a good old man. Then you must have been lied to. You know, a good person will never be so valued by Nick Fury. I really thought that when Nick Fury and Carol were hunted down, Phil Coulson let him go. For that alone Nick Fury takes Phil Coulson very seriously? Stop it. In fact, Phil Coulson has everything an agent should have. But it was such a person who kept begging to kill him during the resurrection process. From this we can see how painful and tormenting the entire process of resurrection was. Listening to Hill's words, Nick Fury was silent for a while. Inexplicably, he thought of the sentence Sue said in his last diary. It's very expensive to cheat the death god. Erase Phil Coulson's memory of that time, and then re-inject it into thinking he's just recovering from an injury. Hearing Nick Fury's order, Maria Hill nodded. I've always wanted to please Wei this time. I also don't want Phil Coulson to live with this painful memory. This is very likely to affect his mentality and even change his character. Having said that, Maria Hill stood up and said, I'm going to get people ready. After finishing speaking, Hill turned and left without hesitation. After watching Hill leave, Nick Fury leaned back in his chair and pinched his brows. Although Hydra has been completely cleared, it does not mean that you can relax yourself. He took out the black gold diary and put it on the table, and pressed the room's shielding button habitually. Just finished this set of moves, Nick Fury seemed to think of something. Then shook his head. That's right, the Hydra in S.H.I.E.L.D. has been completely wiped out by their own people. Press the shield button yourself. Who is it to defend against? But having said that, I am really glad that Su-Che, the Silver Moon Knight, can come to this universe where I am. Because of him, Avengers went from concept to pre-establishment. Because of him, there is no need to worry about many things between the members of the Avengers Alliance. Also because of him, he knew Hydra and eradicated Hydra. Fortunately, he came to the universe he was in. Nick Fury has never rejected the plug-in of the Black Gold Diary. No one would dislike their more cards. The only pity is that Wanda is only 17 months old. Otherwise, if I give Sue a child earlier, will I be able to keep him in my own universe forever? Saved him from having no sense of belonging, he is ready to travel to other universes. This is what Nick Fury needs to worry about. I really thought he just put Steve, Tony, and even Natasha Romanoff next to Su-Che. Isn't it to increase his bond with this world and increase his sense of belonging? If he didn't know that Wanda was his wife from that parallel universe. Maybe Nick Fury sent a lot of beauties to have a relationship with Su-Che, making him more nostalgic for this world. Huh? Looking at it this way, Thor seems to have lost a lot. Until now, Thor is working hard to save money, and then to travel around the world and fulfill Doris' last wish. Tisk, as expected, this is a world where only Sur is injured. Open the Black Gold Diary and read it again from the first article. It's a Nick Fury habit. Although he has read these diaries countless times, he can even memorize them with his eyes closed. But Nick Fury didn't want to miss any news that could be useful for the future. Or, let go of any extremely small details, from the 1st to the 16th. After reading the first 16 articles, after making sure that there is nothing missing, Nick Fury just scrolled down. It has been more than a year and almost 2 years since Su-Che came to this world. But compared to just coming here, the frequency of diary updates is getting slower and slower. But Nick Fury thinks that this is a good thing. At least, according to the mentality of normal people. Someone like Su-Che who has been through everything. The slower the update frequency of the diary is now, it means that his mentality is getting closer to peace. In other words, Su-Che has begun to gradually accept this world and integrate into it. This is the result Nick Fury most hopes to see after all his hard work. It also explains from the side, when I put Natasha Romanoff, Steve and Tony beside him, the effect is still there. Alas, the calendar is not easy. Turn to the next page. Well, The diary has started to be updated. Only this time, Nick Fury's worry about Suche leaving this world and going to a parallel universe gradually became a little less. Dr. Banner took the psychic scepter from me. Actually, I know what he wants to do with the psychic scepter. He is with Tony, who wants to put a layer of armor on the world. I know why Tony did this, like he intercepted a piece of Hydra code when he and Steve helped S.H.I.E.L.D. destroy Hydra. Nothing more than, I want to make some preparations after the failure of the Avengers against the aliens. Just in the universe I used to be, Ultron was born like this. Well, I knew that this would make Ultron, but I still didn't stop it. After all, no matter how strong Ultron is, it is not as important as Tony. Dr. Banner said that Tony was full of worries, worried that the Avengers alliance would fail, and that aliens would destroy the Earth. If things go on like this, he worries that Tony will suffer from a very serious 323 anxiety disorder. Well, it's not really a worry, but Tony is really going to suffer from severe anxiety. In serious cases, you can even get a sense of security only in the armor. Everyone thinks that Tony Stark used to be a playboy and a cynical guy. Even though he later became a superhero and Iron Man, he still has a big heart and laughs every day. But everyone has overlooked that under that steel armor, Tony is still just an ordinary person, a warm and sensitive person. Flip through the black gold diary to see here. Nick Fury subconsciously wants to turn on the computer and record Tony Stark and anxiety and Ultron. Just looking at the new computer in front of me. Only then did Nick Fury remember that at the most critical moment of the decisive battle with Hydra in S.H.I.E.L.D., some disguised Hydra soldiers had already rushed to his office. Many things were smashed by bullets, and the computer was naturally replaced with a new one. Alright. Although his own top-secret file system is still there. But Nick Fury didn't open it. Forget it, anyway, if the birth of Ultron in the record was deliberately allowed by Suche. Then he should be able to handle it. In fact, since Suche came into this world, Nick Fury found himself changed a lot. Just like now. If it's my former self, I know that Tony Stark and Dr. Banner took away the psychic scepter. We'll create a powerful villain, Ultron, who will even threaten the Earth. Then he will definitely take action to take back the psychic scepter, and no matter what, Ultron will not have a chance to be born. But now, he actually began to acquiesce in the creation experiments of Tony and Dr. Banner. I even feel that what Suche said is right, compared to a super-villain with the ability to threaten the safety of the Earth. I actually care more about Tony Stark's so-called anxiety disorder? If it was my former self, shouldn't I go directly to a dozen psychiatrists? Well, the main confidence comes from Suche, the superhero from the parallel world. Nick Fury believes. Veteran Avengers like Suche are very clear in their hearts no matter what they do. Since he didn't care about Ultron, he paid more attention to Tony's heart. Then you don't need to worry too much about it. If Suche knew, Nick Fury's absolute confidence came from himself, the veteran Avenger. Then Suche's first thought was definitely cursing. That's right, cursing. If you trust yourself so much, your trust value will go up a lot. No matter how hard I try, this guy will always keep his trust value stuck at 73%. Just like that. How dare you say you absolutely trust yourself? Damn, this bad old man will throw you into the cotton field sooner or later. Putting his mind down, Nick Fury continued to read the updates on the Black Gold Diary. The matter in Zijing Town is over, but it's not completely over. Tony is a little anxious because of the envoy magician in Westview Town and Chittori in the Battle of New York, and wants to put the Earth on the Shikong armor. But, actually, I'm also a little worried. In the world I used to have, nothing like this happened in Westview Town. The self-proclaimed emissary of God, Olivia Temple, who I killed, was once very powerful in my world. Even though, when he was killed by me, his strength was weakened so much that I easily succeeded. But now, there is another magician who claims to be the messenger of the gods. This guy is from the same faction as Olivia Temple, but in my world, for more than 10 years, I have never seen him, so this time he is so passive. It even made Tony worry that we might lose in the future. Well, I admit that Tony's worry is justified. Since there is Olivia Temple and this messenger magician, can it be considered that there are more enemies that I don't know? Even after we killed one after another of the so-called God messengers, will the so-called God really descend in person? I am not sure. A god, a real god, not a god who claims to be Thor Odinson and Loki Odinson. When such a god descends, do I have the ability to keep this earth? Do I really have the ability of a god? I don't know. Maybe I should focus on the universe and find a chance to get that Black Death Sword, a weapon that can truly kill gods. Although, this will make enemies of the eternal race. However, in order to protect the earth, maybe this is something I have to do. Helheim. Oh, the real god. Look at the contents of the latest updated diary. Hela frowned slightly. As the eldest daughter of Odin, as the eldest princess of Asgard, as the goddess of death who once conquered the universe, she naturally knows many secrets of the universe. Including the real land of gods, including how powerful those so-called gods are. Even gods like Zeus actually exist. But for them, Hela didn't have any fear, but didn't care at all. If these so-called gods want to hit Asgard's attention, then Hela will raise her weapon without hesitation and launch a death charge against them. From Hela's point of view, Shu's god is nothing more than that. However, the weapon that can truly kill gods, the Black Death Sword, is quite interesting. When I led the Asgard warriors to conquer the universe, I heard the legend about the Black Death Sword. It's a pity that I didn't find it, and I didn't pay much attention to it at the time. But since there are also people who know the Black Death Sword now. So, can I? Well, wait until he kills Odin with his own hands and ascends the throne of Asgard. Maybe we can include this interesting earthling. If you can really master the Black Death Sword, then Asgard will definitely kill one so-called god after another and become the real overlord of the universe. For Su Che, Hela actually appreciates it very much. Really appreciate it. This appreciation is not because I was sealed in Helheim for more than 2,000 years, and I accidentally got this black gold diary that can pass the time. And Su Che is the owner of the black gold diary. It's not that Su Che's strength is very strong, and he has saved the Midgard Earth time and time again. It's because Su Che, the owner of this diary, is from a parallel universe. But judging from the lines in the diary, he has been guarding the Earth in another universe for more than 10 years. But after coming to this parallel world that has nothing to do with his original universe, he still shoulders the responsibility of protecting the Earth. And led by example, become the soul of the so-called Avengers members, so that these Avengers members can get along more harmoniously. This is what Hela admires most about Su Che. After all, Hela has an unmatched love for Asgard too. In other words, if Asgard where you are is destroyed, this universe will be destroyed. I was forced to go to other parallel universes and come back to another Asgard. Then once this Asgard, which has nothing to do with itself, is hit by destruction, or knowing that Asgard is going to be destroyed, will I act as a spectator, or will I look for an opportunity to save this Asgard that has nothing to do with me? Hela thinks that she will definitely choose the latter. Although, this Asgard is not the Asgard I used to be. But home is always home. Thinking of this, apart from a trace of appreciation in Hela's eyes, tyrannical emotions also began to spread from the bottom of her heart. If it weren't for the damned Odin who exiled and sealed himself in this eternal night of Helheim, then Asgard has already become the existence of the overlord level of the universe at this moment. How could it be crushed by that flame giant of Suterte? Although, Asgard, which was destroyed by the flame giant, is only a parallel universe. But as long as one thinks about the future, Asgard is likely to suffer the same fate. The tyrannical emotion in Hela began to spread unconsciously. That is your own country. Anyway, Odin couldn't last much longer. It seems that after the seal is broken and he returns from Helheim, the first thing to do is to kill the flame giant. Thinking of this, the tyrannical emotion on Hela gradually disappeared. Well, this black gold diary is not bad. At least, it lets itself know something about what's going to happen in the future. Thinking of this, Hela continued to read. After the incident in Westview Town ended, the members of the Avengers Alliance also began to get busy. Tony and Dr. Banner want to put a layer of iron armor on the Earth, and Steve took the initiative to assume the identity of the captain of the operation team during the period when S.H.I.E.L.D. was weak. Although, he also wants to take this opportunity to find Winter Soldier Bucky. When the two of us got together for a drink last night, Steve laughed at himself and said that he is struggling very much now. On the one hand, Bucky Barnes is his friend, the only friend who can be sure to stand by him when the whole world betrays him. On the other hand, this friend killed Tony's parents. When he learned from Tony that Bucky was still alive, Steve admitted that his heart beat faster, but then, Tony showed him another video. A video of Bucky killing Tony's parents. So now Steve is also very entangled, knowing that Bucky at that time was brainwashed and controlled by Hydra. However, he didn't know how to face Tony, especially when Tony generously said that it had nothing to do with him, and he would personally find Bucky to avenge his parents. Steve hesitated for a long time, but didn't know what to say. It can be seen that Steve is in a dilemma at the moment and wants to ask for help but doesn't know what to do. But this time, I didn't say anything, because I knew Steve just wanted someone to talk to, not someone else to advise him. As I thought, after Steve confides, nothing happens. Although, he was a little melancholy between his brows, but now he is even more melancholy. However, there is good news, that is, Clint's daughter was born. After receiving the news from Clint, all of us are happy for him. Clint wasn't the oldest member of our Avengers alliance, but he was the first to have the next generation. Really happy for him. But speaking of the oldest, well, it's Thor. Seeing that the diary mentions Thor's name again, the corner of Hela's mouth turned up. It's just that the upturned corner of the mouth doesn't seem to be because of happiness, but more like that kind of ridicule. Yes, just like Ding said, how could you have such kind of ridicule? Thor, who is more than 1,500 years old, is still not that mature, but after experiencing the girlfriend named Doris, he has obviously changed a lot. Although I always talk about, how much is this mission, and, damn Nick Fury, add money, bastard. But it seems that he has come out of the shadow of the death of his girlfriend Doris, and has been very close to Jane Foster recently. Sure enough, even if the universe has changed, will Thor and Jane Foster still be a couple? Actually, I really want to ask Nick Fury what happened to the girl named Doris. At least in my memory, I have never had the impression of Doris. Na is very busy during this period. S.H.I.E.L.D. has a lot of things to deal with, although, she said more than once that she wants to leave S.H.I.E.L.D. and become a full-fledged Avenger. However, the weak S.H.I.E.L.D. cannot do without her at this time. Well, Wanda and Pietro will be taken care of by me. Wanda said that she doesn't want to go to college. Well, I support it, because this is her life and her choice. Although as a boyfriend, I still have to choose to respect. It's like I respect that Pietro wants to go to college and dreams of becoming a lawyer. As for me, I haven't dreamed for a long time, the world I was born and grew up in. It seems that I have begun to accept this world. But sometimes, I still think of the world I used to be, the bits and pieces of that world I used to, and everyone who appeared in my life. Although, every time I think about it, my heart feels like I was cut by a knife. This world is wonderful, but I will still miss it. I'm a little homesick. Trash, rubbish, stupid. See the last line of the 17th diary. Hela, who originally had a hint of mockery towards Thor, began to rage in an instant. The black long sword in his hand kept slashing at the surroundings like crazy. Rage's voice attracted many people to secretly look towards this side. What's wrong with that? I don't know what stimulated me, so I started to go crazy again. It's been almost 2,000 years. I go crazy from time to time. I'm used to it. Hush. Keep your voice down. You want to die again. That's the goddess of death in Asgard. Hiss. Can't be provoked. Hela spawns rage. It's not because Su-Che said that he began to miss his world again. But this sentence evoked Hela's longing for Asgard, the homeland he loved so much. This is absolutely not allowed by Hela. As a strong person, Hela absolutely does not allow even a little bit of weakness in her heart. Even if this weakness comes from his beloved Asgard. As a strong man, he can be tyrannical, arrogant and domineering, and even have compassion for ants. But, never be weak. For Hela, being weak is her greatest shame. Oh, it's starting again. Feeling that Hela's seal started to riot, Odin, holding the eternal gun, sighed helplessly. Although I don't know why Hela started rioting again this time. But Odin began to exert the power of the seal anyway. If it was placed in the past, then Odin wouldn't care at all. But now, it is conceivable that once he really entered the Soul Castle, Hela would definitely break the seal. And then, without an Asgard of her own, who can stand in her way? After applying the seal, Odin left Asgard and walked towards Bifrost, holding the eternal grab. The Bifrost terminal, where Heimdall guards, is constantly observing every move in the 9 realms. When he saw God King Odin approaching, Heimdall stepped forward to greet him, but Odin waved his hand to stop him. Heimdall, how's Thor's time on Earth? Facing the God King's inquiry, Heimdall replied directly, it feels pretty good, once again fighting side by side with the superhero on Earth named Avengers Alliance. Although what happened in Westview Town, I couldn't see clearly because of the magic barrier and the fog, but in the end they still won. And Thor recently got very close to an Earth girl named Jane Foster. Having said that, Heimdall hesitated for a while, and then said to Odin, Your Majesty, the roadbed has disappeared. You can't see a trace of Loki either. After hearing Heimdall say that Loki disappeared, Odin was also a little surprised. You must know that Heimdall's eyes can see anywhere within the 9 realms. Before Loki disappeared, another Loki appeared. Facing the God King, Heimdall reported earnestly. That was the night before Su-Che, the leader of the Avengers on Earth, led the members of the Alliance into Shangxi Town. That night, Loki showed up and lured them somewhere outside of Westview Town. Your Majesty, I'm sure that Loki is also Loki, but not the Loki in this universe. After that Loki disappeared, when the Great War broke out in Westview Town, a person who once wore the Loki of the parallel universe appeared and took Loki away. Having said that, Heimdall shook his head. Since Loki was taken away by the man who wore the same clothes as Loki in the parallel universe, I have never seen a trace of Loki again. Nobody stopped it. Facing Heimdall's words, Odin turned his head and asked after looking at the colorful universe. At that time, no one stopped it. After getting an affirmative answer from Heimdall, Odin nodded to show that he understood. Although, the venerable Sorcerer Supreme will mark and monitor any threat that befalls the Earth. But if the person who Heimdall said is wearing the same costume as the parallel universe, Loki, is a threat to Loki. Even if he wants to kill Loki, then Odin believes that the Ancient One magician will definitely do it. It's not because of such a deep friendship or anything like that. Rather, Odin believed that the Ancient One magician would never see Loki and Thor die on Earth. So since she doesn't do anything to stop it, Loki isn't in real danger. What's more, compared to Loki, where is Hela the real threat? I can only persevere. I hope Thor can understand as soon as possible what is the real meaning of homeland. Earth. Call. With a long sigh of relief, Su-Che stood by the window and watched the moonlight at night. The last sentence in the diary made me a little homesick. This is what Su-Che wrote from the bottom of his heart. It has been more than a year and almost 2 years since I came to this world, even if I have already adapted to this world. But when you dream back at midnight, how could you not miss the home you used to be in? So it's not really a lie. Although it is said that the highest level of deception is to deceive yourself. However, this longing is indeed sincere. In fact, this also fits my own identity. After all, the setting I set for myself is to be an Avenger who was accidentally wandered into this world by the destroyed parallel universe. So sometimes when I unconsciously show that I miss the past and my home, it seems to them that it should be. Also, why do you say, cheat? Well, actually this is just a trick Su-Che set for Hela. Su-Che is clear, whether it is Hela, Thor, or Loki. I love Asgard so much. So Su-Che deliberately wrote the last 2 lines in the diary, just to stimulate. An eldest princess who was sealed by her father and exiled for more than 2,000 years. Su-Che can't believe that Hela doesn't miss her beloved Asgard. Well, it turns out 0. My own trap was very successful. At least, the system shows that Hela's trust value has soared from 10% to 3% from the initial 10% of watching the fun and passing the time. If there is another 20%, I can get another ability. For becoming stronger, Su-Che is very eager. Although, at this moment, I am already recognized as the most powerful superhero in the Avengers Alliance. It's best not to drink coffee at night, it's easy to lose sleep. At some point, Wanda walked in with her bare feet stepping on a blanket, then smiled and took the coffee cup from Su-Che and put it on the table. Then he buried his whole body on the body of his boyfriend Su-Che. Hee, it's more at ease to sleep with my boyfriend in my arms. You're not a god, Tony. Sitting on the sofa, Peepo looked at Tony in front of him and said softly, this world never works according to our wishes, and no one can know what will happen in the future. Maybe in this process, we will have regrets and self-blame. But Tony, that's destiny. Listening to Pepper's gentle voice, Tony Stark, who was studying the palm projection, paused for a moment. I think the strong can control their destiny. Turning his head to look at Pipo, Tony shrugged his shoulders and said, as you said, I don't know what will happen in the future. But the only thing I can't risk is you. Hearing Tony's serious tone, Pipo smiled and stretched out his hand to hold Tony's palm, letting the virtual projection pass through his palm. Form the pattern of a steel robot man on the back of his hand. Tony, I don't want to be a burden to you. How? How could you think like that? Pipo, I never. Listen to me, Wani. Looking at Tony Stark, who was about to explain. Pipo smiled softly. I actually know everything about what you said and what you were worried about. But Tony, some things cannot be achieved simply by pursuing them. Recently, your mood is very wrong, although you have been studying that psychic scepter with Dr. Bruce Banner. But Tony, you should relax. Lifting Tony's palm and putting it on his cheek, Pipo showed a warm smile. As the person who knows you best, Tuo Zhang. I can feel your tightness recently. Although I don't know what happened, I just want to say that no matter what happens in the future, I will stand by your side. It's just that you can't go on like this now, Tony, you're already full of anxiety. Having said that, Pipo raised his voice slightly, Jarvis. What are your orders, Ms. Pepper? Jarvis, seal all the research data of Tony and Dr. Banner at this moment, and monitor the ups and downs of Tony's emotional state at any time. Until Tony's anxiety dissipates, restore the file again. Okay, Ms. Pepper. Mr. Stark and Dr. Banner have sealed the file titled X, Earth Armor. Hey, Jarvis, you can't do this. It sounds like Jarvis actually sealed their own file named X, Earth Armor, as Pipo ordered. Tony hastily stopped it. But before he could finish speaking, he saw Pipo looking at him quietly. Facing Pepper's eyes, Tony Stark was silent for a while. Then he raised his hand and surrendered. Okay, I'll just suspend my research. Seeing Tony compromise, Pipo smiled again. Then he continued to Jarvis. Jarvis, if Tony wants to reopen the sealed file while I am away or working in the Stark Industrial Building, then you will definitely remind me the first time, right? Even if Tony asks you to keep it a secret. Definitely, Ms. Pepper, for the sake of Mr. Stark's mental health, I will definitely notify you as soon as possible. Watching Pipo seal up a thought that secretly rose in his heart. Tony Stark said suddenly, Jarvis, you traitor. Sorry, sir, for your mental health, I think I should obey Ms. Pepper's order. Cut. Speechlessly muttered, Tony Stark leaned on the sofa and looked at the ceiling without saying a word. I have long been used to Tony's childish tantrum from time to time. Pipo didn't compromise. Instead, he held Tony's hand gently, and asked softly, as your girlfriend, as the person who knows you best. Tony, can you tell me the reason for your anxiety? Although, I may not be able to help you, but maybe after speaking out, I will feel better. Nothing, Tisk, really. Facing Pipo, who is as gentle as water, Tor felt that he had no resistance at all. After picking up the water glass on the table and taking a big sip of ice water. Leaning back on the sofa again, Tony was silent for a while. The voice gradually became serious. At the beginning, I didn't take what happened at Sus Peach Blossom Forest Cafe across from our Stark Industry to that guy Olivia Temple seriously. By the way, Olivia Temple, you know, the guy with lava on his body. I saw it on the internet, and we talked about it at the time. Listening to Tony's words, Pipo nodded lightly. Many people took pictures of this scene and posted it on the internet. There are also many people who think it depends on the special effects. Facing Pipo's answer, Tony held Pipo's hand, and kissed the back of her hand lightly. Yeah, at that time, like many people, I didn't care at all. Later, the Avengers Alliance was established and destroyed the Hydra base in Sokovia. At that time, although everyone gathered together for the first time, Dr. Banner was missing. But I think with such a strong team, we will definitely be invincible. So I didn't even pay too much attention to the Battle of New York that happened afterwards. After all, the aliens are coming, and we just need to fight back. But, in fact, I thought too naively. Placing his arms behind his head, Tony Stark looked at the ceiling solemnly. Actually, the Earth has been visited by aliens long ago, but no one knows about it. Until I helped Steve and S.H.I.E.L.D. destroy Hydra some time ago. I intercepted a piece of extremely secret material hidden in Hydra. Damn it. The reason why Hydra's damn bastards use some living people to conduct some seemingly whimsical experiments. Actually, they've been working on the alien remains and weapons they got, including S.H.I.E.L.D. Looking at Peepo, Tony said very seriously. Can you believe that even S.H.I.E.L.D. has a Tahiti project, and in that plan and base, actually the main research is the remains of aliens. Looking at the ceiling with somewhat complicated eyes, Tony Stark's voice was a little rough. I know that these things cannot be disclosed to the outside world, and the public must not know, otherwise it will definitely cause a lot of confusion. But according to the messages I have intercepted, the names of aliens are far from being as simple as we imagined. Even the aliens who were repelled by us in the Battle of New York, in terms of structure and ability, they are just the weakest group. However, Chittori, who is the weakest and thinks that the research value is much less, can bring such a big shock to the Earth. So, what about other alien civilizations? Turning to look at Peepo. If other high-level alien civilizations invade the Earth, what should we do at that time?